Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for sharing this beautiful day with me. And I wanted to share some thoughts and maybe some tips about an important ability that we've all been given at birth to varying degrees and that we ignore a lot. And that is the gift of intuition. And it is said that this gift is a sacred one that is connected with the divine feminine. It is a way of knowing that defies logic. It can solicit emotions, but it is not that either. And it is so underused that we've even forgotten how to listen to ourselves. And really, that is the key. If you're going to use intuition, you need to be able to get to that quiet space of knowing. You could say it's in your gut, it's in your bones. We all have different expressions for it. But ultimately, what this is talking about is a way of being able to understand, to know, and even receive inklings of things and messages that do not come strictly from the logical mind. It doesn't come from an emotional basis. And you say, well, Skyfire, I'm not the psychic type, or maybe you are, and I don't even know how to control this thing. But you use it more frequently than you think. So I want you to consider this. Whenever you're going somewhere, especially if it's someplace that's new or strange, and whether it be driving or walking, you could be in the city, you could be out in the woods somewhere. And as you're going along, not only are your physical senses heightened, and yes, you're using your mind to guide where you're going from point A to point B, but you can also get a sense. So if you're, walking through the woods or in a city, you can get a sense as to what is going around you in the environment. Is it friendly? Is it tense? If you're driving, the same thing, you can get a sense of the energy or even just an inkling of when, say, someone is going to suddenly shift lanes or do something unexpected that wasn't necessarily tipped off by, the car's position or what have you. So you use this every day, even when you are thinking about typically, having a conversation where you don't know the person, you don't know how it's going to take off. And when you sit down with it, yes, there's a part of it that is, of course, mental. You imagine what you would say, you rehearse, you try to imagine what that other person would say. But a lot of times, even if you know that individual, but more so if you don't, you will have to use your gut, you could call it your gut instinct, your intuition, to get a sense as to what that person might say, how they might react. And this is what I mean. You're using it every day, all the time, even though you're not aware of it. And it usually has to be sneaky. So the minute that you start thinking, I'm going to use my intuition, then becomes you can just clang the boxer's bell, the epic battle between the mind and the knowing of intuition, which comes from the heart. So in order to be able to really engage with this is, number one, accept that intuition is a normal part of you, like breathing, like your sense of touch or sight. You have it. You have it. You can't turn it off. It's like your hearing. You can tune things out. You can never completely turn it off. So when it comes to your intuition, if you want to develop it more, the big thing is just allow. I know it's a famous word of mine, allow. Allow yourself to receive impressions and messages. And a good way to practice this will be, even if, say, again, you're going somewhere, and if it's someplace, whether it be the drive every day or a walk through a park, and get into that space of, okay, my mind knows I want to go from here to there. Let me sense within myself what type of energy, what type of journey will this be? And here's where you have to be very careful in your discernment. In other words, in order for you to say, this is my intuition versus everything else, is you have to check in with where you are so that you can discern, is this my mental state that's projecting this? Is this my emotional state that's projecting that? And once you can begin to acknowledge, okay, this is where the boundaries are, then you can get into the other way of knowing, of sensing, that is not emotional, that is not mental. It is just that knowing that comes from deep within. And just before you go on your journey, whichever way you do it, Just, okay, let me sense, what type of energy? What type of beings will I meet? Will it be, what type of people? Will I meet different animals, depending where you're walking? And try to just open your mind to be receptive while you are reaching out with here. And I'll tell you something else that's really, really normal. Frustrating, but normal. The minute that you begin to try to get a grip on your intuition, it can be like a ghost. Suddenly you feel like, I'm not sensing anything, I'm not seeing anything. That's normal, because what happens is there is this desire to succeed, there's a desire to, have things and experience the way that you expect it to be, and it doesn't work that way. So when you're tuning into your intuition, think back to this experience if you had. You knew who was going to be on the phone before you picked it up. You had a sense of what you were going to find before you got to a location. And when you analyze yourself, was it visual? Was it just a feeling? What was it? What is your it? No red balloons here, please. And from there, you can begin to identify, when my inner knowing, my intuition is talking, this is how it first begins to come into my consciousness and blend with my mind. And depending on what your intuition is, it can also give messages and solicit emotions. So that's why it's very important to identify, this is the emotions that I'm feeling versus what created them. Did it happen before you were trying to use your intuition, or as it was happening? So the more that you begin to do that, I know it sounds simplistic, and it is. It really is, believe it or not. The first part of just learning to identify, this is my intuition versus everything else. And then as you go forward, intuition is a very sacred thing, because in traditional teachings, this is a gift from the Creator. It comes from that sense of heart where you connect with your sacred self and the universe. So you will find that when you talk with your intuition and listen to it, it will continue to give you messages despite how distracted you might be or your emotional state. And that's what I would call the nagging feeling. We've all had that nagging feeling, or shucks, and I knew better, something like this. So when you first begin to do this and just allow your mind to be open, focus on what you want to know a little bit more about. And then from there, see what impressions come. And realize that this is not really about predicting the future. It's getting a sense of what is coming. So you say, well, Skyfire, what's the difference? Well, it's not like, fortune telling or something like this. It's just, again, getting that sense of what's coming ahead of you so you can be prepared now to have a better journey as you move through it. And as you begin to train this out, you're going to find that different psychic and spiritual abilities suddenly become very obvious to you. Maybe you see dead people, people have crossed over. You really get to feel the messages that you're an empath or what have you, or maybe maybe you do get a sense of the future or the past. And from there, once you begin to identify it, you can begin to train that out. And for those of you, if you're curious, I do private mentoring if ever you should be interested in developing different psychic and spiritual and shamanic gifts, which is another way that intuition works. Intuition is a way of being able to connect beyond yourself, beyond the limitations of the mind, beyond the limitations of the five senses. And it will always capture the essence of what is around you. Your mind can try to argue it, your emotions can try to change it, which is how you test it. But then it goes back to that nagging feeling, as I said to you before. So understand that there should not be a fight between the intuition and the mind. It's good to question everything. When I have students, and some of you out there are my students, you know that I encourage exploration, testing, because the truth will stand. But consider, again, that when your intuition presents information, And again, we've already established you do this when you're driving or walking and getting a sense of what's going on around you. Then allow your mind to interact with that information. They're meant to go back and forth with each other, not one, I'm going to say, trying to dominate the other. I, for one, always am listening to that, we call it the voice within, that knowing, that voice within, and from there comes the power within first. So I'll use my mind to say, okay, I want to accomplish this project, I want to talk to this person and have it go, the conversation be successful by going in a certain way. And then I will open, again, it comes from the heart, again, that energetic soul connection. I'll open and then get a feel for it. So this is very similar to the physical experience when, say, first thing in the day. And yes, you've checked your weather, on the phone or whatever, but you want to open the door and you step outside. You want to feel and sense what the weather is going to be like, the physical weather, before you decide to get dressed and equip yourself for the day. And so it is here, the same thing, but instead of it being physical weather, this is the energetic climate that is around you. And then that interaction back and forth where you have a sense of the energy. Well, if the energy is one of being very friendly, then being able to relax and know that it's open to you. If the energy, your intuition is saying that there could be tension or stress, then you know at the very least not to escalate it and add to it. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you, that this is a very sacred gift that allows us to connect with each other, our sacred selves, and really the worlds around us. Whether you know it or not, you've been using it. Take the time to discern what's your intuition, develop that skill of allowing the intuition to lead and the mind to co-create with your intuition. And again, if ever any of you would like to explore further, I do classes, I do private mentoring. Feel free to drop a comment here. And if you found this video useful, please give it a like. And if you haven't subscribed, it always helps me if you do. So again, drop me a comment. I'm also on Instagram at Eagle Skyfire. And you are welcome, if you want to leave a more detailed message, to message and send a comment to me through my website, eagleskyfire.com. So with that, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I hope it's beautiful, no matter where you are. And I'm so grateful for you to be here with me. Wanishi. Until we speak again. See you later.